Hey, everybody meaning the people watching this video. Hi, my name's Chris, and I do a thing where we talk about dumb stuff. It's football time and draft time, and whether you're watching us live to do a mock draft or in arrears, that's it. We're here. It's a Wednesday evening, and we're about to draft some teams in a 12-team half-point PPR mock draft. It's myself. It's 10 bots and then a bot the shape of Jake Trowbridge. Hi, Jake.
I'm so close to being that 11th bot. You don't even know. But I am glad to be here in their stead.
We are brought to you by AG1, and I'm going to talk a little more about AG1 a little later in the proceedings, but we want to get going. And the way this is going to work is we're probably not going to be able to answer every single question during this live stream, but we're going to take breaks periodically, and producer Dave Piper, who's here with us, might whisper in my ear and ask me a couple questions. So feel free, if you're watching live, to ask questions as we go. It's, as I said, myself and Jake and 10 bots. The bots will pick quickly, but we'll pick a little slower. We'll try to justify why we picked what we picked. It looks as though I am picking third, which in the course of these mock drafts, Jake, I feel like I've picked third or fourth a few times, and so everybody knows what I'm doing, which is there's a running back. There's a running back coming in my future. More intriguing is you picking at 10, because I actually love picking down at the bottom of the first round this year because I really like my options coming back the other way. But there are 9 guys that go before you. So you can wind up going a couple different directions when you get to 10, right?
Yeah. And honestly, if I'm not picking in the top 3, I would just much rather be at the back end of the draft. Just the way that the tiers kind of break out, I think I do prefer that. But yeah, to your point, avoid those stretch runs, the extra pressure. Oh no, I've got to get my tight end here. I like not having to worry about that quite as much at the turn, because I'll just double up if I have to. Or onesie.
Yeah, like I would say, if I had my choice, I probably would just pick one, because I do like getting McCaffrey, and I feel like I can build it from there. I'll be all right. I'm figure something out. But if I were choosing kind of like vaguely early in drafts or vaguely later in drafts, I think I would go vaguely later, because again, if I'm picking 5 or 6, and it comes back around to me at 7 or 8 in the second round, I generally am like, woof, I can run out of options that I really, really like. Whereas later, I'm not gonna. So anyway, we'll see what you do. I think we're ready to get it started, unless I've missed something up. Dave Piper will tell me I have. But otherwise, Dave can hit the button and we'll get going. Here we go. And the first pick. What? Tyreek Hill goes first. That feels like like something random just thrown in to mess me up live, but it's not gonna mess me up.
That feels like somebody got too nervous about, oh, he's doing some side work at today's practices. That's what that feels like.
Right. The bot who was picking 1 was really worried about McCaffrey's calf. So for me here, I always knew it would come down to my next running back. I am going to put those 3 running backs, McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, and Breece Hall, top 3, no matter my scoring format. I don't even care if it's full PPR. This is half PPR, so all the more. I mean, Bijan and Breece are going to catch the ball, and it just gives me an advantage to have somebody at a scarcer position. I have had Bijan Robinson ranked just slightly ahead of Breece Hall through this whole process, Jake, but I'm interested in your perspective. If you're me sitting here, and maybe your preference wouldn't be to take a running back, and I respect that. There are great receivers. I could take Lamb here and be just fine. But let's say you were taking a running back here and you had your choice between Bijan and Breece. Is your preference like overwhelming?
It's really not. My druthers is to go with Breece Hall, but it's really more defaulting to the side of, look at what he did last year in such a putrid offense. And we've seen it. And Bijan, we saw almost it, but not quite. And that's the tiebreaker for me.
It's fair. And I'm not going to belabor the point. I've done it a bunch of times in all of my various Harris football properties. I am going to take Bijan Robinson, but if somebody decided to take Breece here, it's like it's a 1% preference for Bijan. So here we go. Bijan goes. So now the bots have their way, and we see We see 4 receivers go, and then we do see Breece Hall go. And Jahmyr Gibbs, no worries on Team 10's part for the hamstring for Jahmyr Gibbs. So you saw what happened here. What are you thinking?
I'm pleasantly surprised. When I get to
Okay.
the 10th spot, traditionally, in a lot of mocks that I've done or real drafts that I've done, there's a guy there that's kind of my tier break, and he's never there for wide receiver. He's here
Okay.
this time. And so I'm thrilled that I get the opportunity to lean really heavily into my A.J. Brown love.
Got it.
And thinking that he will have somewhat of a career year. So he is a very interesting guy at 10 that I don't think 9 times out of 10 I would get to have and enjoy. So I'm going to have and enjoy.
And maybe that's because Gibbs doesn't go usually before the 10 pick. Is he the one? It feels like everybody else kind of usually goes there, and maybe Gibbs is the one that Team 10 would typically maybe take A.J. Brown, and you'd be stuck with the other pick. But in this case, you didn't have to worry about it. So spinning back around to you, we got Marvin Harrison and Garrett Wilson, neither of whom I would ever consider in the first round because they've never done it before, and I'm way too risk averse in the first round. But then Kyron Williams goes. Did you hear he's returning punts?
Sure
and then
did.
Saquon Barkley goes. So now you've taken the receiver. Let me ask you before you even make your pick. Does positional consideration, do you get anxiety about worrying about, okay, I did a wide receiver, I have to do a running back here, or are you in best available mode still, like early second round?
When it's this early, I don't give too much thought to that. If it's a tie-breaking decision, sure. I've got 2 players I really love. I would then default to the wide receivers, actually, and then push it at this tier. Because again, the wide receivers tend to get a little bit grosser for me once we get into the 3rd and 4th round, where it's a little bit too much of just these guys all look very samey to me, whereas running backs start to differentiate a little bit in those rounds. So looking at the board and who is available, ironically, the top 3 names are all sort of fine. I'll take any single one of them and be very happy, but I am going to follow what I said. And I am actually going to take the wide receiver. So you know that what I'm saying is accurate, and I'm not lying to you. I will take Puka Nacua at that spot.
I mean, Jake, everybody in your home league is watching this going, got it. I know exactly what's going to, and then you're just going to zig. You're going to zig and you're going to zag and whatever.
That's right.
So Nacua, I mean, I've said it on the show, on the podcast, like there's a real chance we just have the wrong order for the Rams receivers. How much concern do you have that it's actually Cooper Kupp who should be going with the 15th overall pick?
My thought with their discrepancy and their round and a half, maybe 2 round differential, just depending, I guess, is I expect, and I could be fully wrong, that Cooper Kupp is the closer to the line of scrimmage guy. Puka Nacua is the little bit downfield guy, but I expect the target share to be relatively similar. So give me the chance to get the guy who will rack up more yards and outside of the red zone have, hopefully, more natural touchdown upside there. That said, if after week 3 I look at this and want to throw my phone, I think that's fair. That's a fair guesstimate to make.
To be honest, though, I took Puka in a CBS Experts League yesterday, or the IDP League that we all do with experts with the CBS guys. I took him, I can't remember. It might have been, it was full PPR. No, it might have been right around the same spot. And like how, as long as he's healthy, even if Kupp stays healthy, how bad is the floor for Nacua really? Like, I could easily argue that Marvin Harrison and Garrett Wilson's floor are way worse than Puka Nacua's floor because I just saw Puka Nacua have a historic season and he's proven that he can produce. So, like, I almost think, like, the worst case of your pick there is just, oh, darn, he only did 1,200 yards and 6 touchdowns. And no, that doesn't justify where you took him, but, like, I feel like it's okay, right?
Well, and they both have, especially Garrett Wilson and Puka Nacua, feels like the big question mark is, what's the quarterback situation going to be?
Yeah.
Both age, health, especially with Matt Stafford, but also with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Garrett Wilson, so much of his outlook is 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers off of the Achilles with less mobility and escapability. And what if he just doesn't play for a portion of the season? They both have those questions. So, I will take Puka Nacua, who just did it last year.
Me too. I mean, yeah, I got a guy who just did it as a rookie. I got two guys who've never done it in the NFL. I'm good. All right, so I went Bijan in the first round, and um, yeah, I'm probably gonna just take the Jack Gerbil. The Jack Gerbil. I'm on auto pick. I don't want to be on auto pick.
I love
I'm
you for
off
doing
auto
that.
pick. All right. So yeah, I took Jacobs. I went running back. I agree with what you said, Jake, that at this early, I'm not going to worry that much about position. I'm going to pick probably the highest player on my board, and Jacobs is the highest player on my board at this point. His ADP has already risen quite a lot. Just in the time that we've been doing this, over the month that or 5 weeks, we've been doing these mock drafts, Jacobs was going in like the 4th round, and now his ADP is getting up to early 3rd, even late 2nd. Maybe he gets back around to me here, but frankly, maybe not. And I have a feeling people who do drafts the rest of this week and into Labor Day weekend, my sense is Jacobs will go even higher because A.J. Dillon, we just got the news he's out for the year. Marshawn Lloyd, this huge threat to Josh Jacobs' primacy in Green Bay, probably not going to play and hasn't practiced for a month. You're a Packer fan. I remember you being a Packer fan, I think. How do you feel about the Jacobs pick at the end of 2?
Thank you for not even jokingly calling me a Vikings fan. I appreciate that very much. The Josh Jacobs thing, I like that pick because I feel that he had been undervalued for so long.
Me
It is
too.
nice to see him get his shine. The A.J. Dillon thing is so curious to me that's what's going to push him up the boards because I never had an inkling that A.J. Dillon was a threat to Josh Jacobs. He was kind of hanging on for dear life, in my opinion, on that team, let alone that offense. So, a guy like Emmanuel Wilson could still very well step in because LaFleur will probably still utilize a second back a fair amount. Sure. But who cares? Because Josh Jacobs should get the high value touches. And I don't care what Emmanuel Wilson does between the 20s. He's not breaking off many 60-yard touchdowns probably that will snipe Josh Jacobs' value.
I mean, I would care if they were getting a 40% workload. If it turns out 60-40 with Emmanuel Wilson, I would care, but I just can't imagine that's the plan. If that's the plan, I'll wind up being surprised. But, there aren't any running, 4 running backs last year had more than 80% of their backfields. Jacobs was one of them. And he didn't do a lot with it. So that's a question. Like, is he good enough? Did he fall off a cliff from 2 years ago when he won a rushing title? But I'm obviously making the prediction that he will not. Let me pause it, although actually it's Dave Piper who has paused it, because we're going to thank AG1 for being the sponsor of these Wednesday night / sometimes we post them on Thursday mock drafts. This is my tomorrow dose of AG1 right here, Jake. It's delicious and it's already pre-mixed since I knew I was doing this, but I drink AG1 every morning. This is the bottle from which I drink it. This is an AG1 travel pack. And I have been drinking AG1 every morning on an empty stomach for 4 years now, 3.5 years now. It's become an easy daily habit. I've eliminated a multivitamin. It's just kind of how I take care of my health. I go to the gym almost every day. I notice my energy levels are way smoother. I don't bonk. Also, probably one of my favorite features, even if it's a little indelicate. I keep saying on these, and we had a little anecdote from Dave Piper that I won't tell about AG1 before we started. I'm not going to tell the story because it's kind of gross, but I will say the fact that AG1 has a prebiotic and a probiotic, it first of all helps you absorb the nutrition that's in AG1, all the vitamins and minerals, much better. They don't pass through you as easily, and then also it helps you regularity. It helps the flow be good. So I'm a huge believer in AG1. The proof is that I drink it. Here's the bottle. If you go to drinkag1.com/Harris, you'll get off with your first subscription. You'll get 5 of these free travel packs. You'll get a year's supply of vitamin D, and you'll be supporting my various shows. And if you'd like to try it out, I really do think you would enjoy it. Drinkag1.com/Harris. I know you see them advertised a lot of different places. It's because it's good. Honestly, it's really good. And we would love it if you'd use our code. So thank you to AG1 very much for continuing to sponsor us. Okay. Commerce is over. Let's get back to the issue at hand. You can start the clock there, Dave Piper. And if there are any questions as we're going along here, Dave, you can just say, "Hey, I have a question in the ear," and I'll pause at my pick. All right, so we're back at it. And does the need for receiver start to enter my mind here? Definitely. I go running back. I got to get a wide receiver. I'm going to go with a high upside guy who's a flag player. He doesn't typically go this high, but I like him this high. I like the way he works it. Stephon Diggity, not a trash bag at all. I take him ahead of Nico Collins. That is a minority opinion in the industry, and it gets me scoffed at in the comments. I see you all scoffing. I see it. I got the notion from Dave right now that in the comments, Drew, you just called that I was going to make that pick, and boom, you nailed it.
You're a man of the people.
He called it in the second round, apparently, Dave says. So before you, we'll ask you about your pick here in the third round in a second. But when you see me go Diggs over Nico Collins, does that outrage you, Jake Trowbridge?
It doesn't outrage me as somebody who is also in your draft. I think I enjoy it. I did clench up a little bit, honestly, when I saw it because it was so unexpected at that spot.
Non-traditional. Yeah.
Non-traditional. That's exactly right. In my view of this Houston team, it's more just about me not being able to plant on an individual and me just looking at the team going, who is 1A, 1B, 1C truly, and going, give me the latest guy. That's honestly as close as I've gotten with this group here.
And that's fair. I mean, I think the prices for Diggs and Collins clearly, third, fourth, something like that. I mean, I'm not going to get either one, I don't think, coming back around to the fourth. I guess Diggs can fall. It's obvious Collins wouldn't have because Collins went three picks after me. It's possible Diggs makes it all the way back around. Of all the receivers left on the board, he's the one who I view as actually having number one upside. Your point is fair. When Stephon Diggs was going as a first-round pick all those years, the feeling was you can take him there because there aren't going to be bust weeks. There aren't going to be weeks where he does 3 for 27 and no touchdowns. And that's what defines a first-round wide receiver. But I'll just ask you, Jake, before you get to your pick again, how many receivers in the NFL this year do you trust not to have like 4 weeks this year? I'm not asking you for an exact number, but ish. Mm-hmm. How many receivers do you trust not to give you the 3 for 27 with no touchdowns in like 4 games this year?
It's definitely a short list.
6, 7?
I could maybe stretch to 10. I could maybe stretch myself to 10 if I really thought hard about it. But I don't even know if it's about the 3 for 26 in those few weeks. It's about how many weeks does he eclipse 100 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. And in that offense, I can see it for any one of those guys. So to your point, taking him there, it's just, I'm going to play for upside. For me, when I look at it like that, I go, I don't want him as my wide receiver 1 because of that reason. Obviously, it's a little bit semantics because you might come back and take a safer guy in the next round and then balances out either way. But that's how I kind of view him.
I mean, compared to Waddle, Nico, who again, slightly behind Diggs, that's a minority opinion, but it is. Debo, Ayuk, like it isn't unheard of for 2 receivers to go. I mean, last year, 2 number 2 receivers on their own teams went in the second round. So that's not unusual. We're predicting the Texans to be a wagon, then, back and forth is enough for everybody to eat. And you might be right. Tank Dell might actually be the best value. That is a fair point. Anyway, I've lingered enough on that particular pick, and it's a minority opinion. And if people are like, listen, I've heard everybody tell me that Collins should be drafted ahead of Diggs, that means you're stupid. Okay, I'm stupid. Not that you're saying that, Jake. What are you thinking when you get to the third round?
Well, when I get to the third round now, I also start to consider, all right, I've got 2 wide receivers. It's not still a guarantee that I have to pivot away from that. I have started drafts with 3 wide receivers and felt completely fine about it. But this is the tier of running back where I start to go, okay, that guy's a trap, that guy's a trap. I don't want that guy. But if there's one that stands out, I'm going to make sure to get him here. And that is the case as such. Okay. So I am going to just go, I'm so boring. I'm taking the guy at the top of the list here, but Isaiah Pacheco, I don't care about Samaje Perine. Let me just say that. I don't care in any way. He's not the next Jerick McKinnon for this team. So hypothetically, I could have got him on the turn, maybe, but I didn't want to chance it because of the running backs that I would have felt pressed to draft on the turn instead.
So you're going to be really mean to me because Diggs is my wide receiver 1, and you've got Isaiah Pacheco's your running back 1. All right, hypocrite boy over there.
I mean, look, in terms of upside at the running back position, talking about can he get 100 total yards and a touchdown in any given week, I do think he's one of those running backs that still offers that the majority of the weeks, whereas some of these guys who, I mean, James Cook, Rachaad White, go after him. I'm more hesitant about that with both, especially with Rachaad White, but even James Cook, I think that it's going to be more up and down.
I think it's a good pick. Like I have Pacheco right around there. That's absolutely fine. I just want to rag on you because you're so mean.
Fine. Do it.
So, right. Well, we had 2 more running backs go, and tell us your thought process here in round 4.
This is where I start to feel dumb for drafting Puka Nacua in the second. I'll be honest. Because when I see Cooper Kupp still available in the 4th, I go, maybe this Harris guy has something on that. But I start to look at the other wide receivers available. And honestly, I still get the heebie-jeebies with some of these fine fellas. So as I scroll down the list, I'm going to attack another running back that's not really popular. And I get why. Nobody wants Alvin Kamara that bad. I understand it. Yet I look at what the offense has and who's going to be earning the targets on this offense. And sure, Chris Olave, I get it to an extent, but who else? It's Alvin Kamara. Kendry Miller obviously is never playing for this team if Dennis Allen would have his way. I don't think that there's anybody behind him going to leapfrog him. If his age catches up with him, fine. But hopefully his bottom level of target share is 75 to 80. And I still feel fine, even in half PPR.
Yeah, you got there, but like some of the things that you were worried about in that logic pattern, I'm like, boy, I don't even care. Like, fine, cool. There are 400 to 500 attempts in any NFL offense. I don't care. Olave can get his. It doesn't matter. That doesn't affect Alvin Kamara at all. Question is Alvin Kamara good, and does the offense get modernized? I think the offense is modernized. I think Alvin Kamara is still good. I love this pick. Anytime you're getting any points per reception, there are just Derek Carr dump offs. So I think in the 4th round, it's just a wonderful pick. I'm all about it. Dave, any questions that I should be catching up with? So Dave says no. So ask us questions if you want, if you're live here. And if you're not watching live, you can ask us down in the comments and we'll come back and circle around at some point. So here we are at my 4th round pick. I'm 2 running backs, 1 receiver, feeling, shaken by Jake's lack of confidence in Stephon Diggs. So I'm definitely going wide receiver again. You're right that Cooper Kupp's the first receiver on the board. He's not the guy I have highest on my receiver list or overall list at this point, just because, boy, oh boy, I am still concerned about injury. So Kupp goes right after me, but I take DK Metcalf, and as a wide receiver too, like none of these guys are safe, but at some point he will have boom games and he will probably get me 1,100 yards receiving, and there are probably 7 touchdowns, and I can live with that in the 4th round.
And what if they throw 50 more attempts this year because Pete Carroll is gone? I think that's a pretty safe bet. So just based on that, I would take it.
50 more targets to DK, you mean?
I would say even if it's just 50 more pass attempts, there is 25 extra for DK. That's how I would chunk that out.
I would certainly hope if it's a big Ryan Grubb change that it's more than 50 attempts more, right? I would hope it would be more than that. All right, so we've had 3 tight ends off the board, and I don't usually take a tight end early, and I probably am not going to do it here, although there's one in my overall ranks who's for me a 5th round pick, and if I were picking any later in the 5th round, I'd be pretty close to taking him. I'll be interested to see if you're interested in him, but I'm sticking to my board, and my board says, no, I'm not going to stick to my board, actually. I take it back. I don't need to stick to my board.
Swerve.
I'm taking the tight end. I think Andrews is a 5th round pick. I have him ranked ahead of Trey McBride. So it's much, much more common in these mock drafts that I wind up with George Kittle, who I think is a sixth round pick and usually doesn't go in the sixth round. But my of my best available, the third best available was Mark Andrews, and I felt like my first best available might be there when I come back around. So as the great Scott Pianowski says, you got to be a little bit of a gambler. You got to be willing to let guys go in order to get really good value on them. So I did it. Now you're up in the fifth. Thanks.
Proud of you. And I'm not just saying that because this next pick could be considered a spite pick. I'm not just trying to grease the wheels, but we're just going to revisit the conversation that we had a little bit earlier very briefly, because I am going to take Tank Dell here as again, it's just kind of, let me play the odds, right? Those other two guys went in the third round. I'll take the 2-round discount and just hope that it pays off. And honestly, there's not much more to it than that.
It's defensible. I have him a little lower, but like, again, not to the point where you could have let him go and have him come back around to you. I don't think he lasts any longer, so that's fine. Where are you going next?
I don't like all of a sudden that decision because 2 tight ends went right off, George Kittle and Kyle Pitts. And I'm smitten with Pitts. I really am. I'm Pitts this year.
Wow.
Man, but I don't get to show that love right now. So I'm, as the kids say, tilting, I think, with this pick in the early 6th round. I don't think I dare go quarterback here. There's a part of me that very much would like to, because the next chunk of running backs, especially, I really don't want anything to do with. I might just have to do it. Honestly, this is gross.
I mean, you're to the point where you have your core scarce position starters. You're set.
Yeah.
You probably feel lighter at running back than wide receiver, but you don't like the running backs. And so I think I'm glad to have heard that thought process, because I understand it, and we might differ on like which running back would be next or whatever. But if you're just not feeling it, I think it's good not to be like totally beholden to positional need, even in the 6th round.
Because honestly, my tiers, when I chunk it out and I go, here's my next group of wide receivers, I've got 8 guys that I'm completely fine. And hopefully one of those guys makes it back to me on this long turn. They may not, but I'm willing to take that risk here. So I will just do it. It's not going to be the person that you think it's going to be, probably based on ADP, but I'm going to take Kyler Murray here.
Okay.
I could be completely alone on a boat. I know Anthony Richardson is still available. I know what we saw out of Anthony Richardson in 2.5 games. I still feel better about Kyler Murray working with Marvin Harrison Jr., the best wide receiver, hypothetically, that he's gotten to throw to, with all due respect to DeAndre Hopkins. And the rushing upside is still there. He can still run for 800 yards. He could do it. Anthony Richardson's a safer bet, but I'll take it.
Do you have a bar of soap there? Can you wash your mouth out to say that Marvin Harrison's rookie year is going to be better than DeAndre Hopkins at whatever he was, age 29?
I have a candle. Will a candle do?
A candle will do. Cut, okay. Dave. Just cut it. We want to. No, we'll stay alive. Yeah, the reason I would not draft Marvin Harrison where he goes is because that statement, which I know you didn't mean necessarily like as you didn't take Marvin Harrison in the 1st round. So like you didn't really mean it as gospel, but I find the market is thinking that. The market thinks, oh, well, sure. Of course, Marvin Harrison's rookie year is going to result in a much, much higher fantasy season than we ever took DeAndre Hopkins. Like, okay, that feels like pretty optimistic. There's a chance that's not the case. So anyway, the Kyler Murray pick is defensible, of course. I actually would have been on Joe Burrow over either one of them. I think Burrow's undervalued, and I'm sad that he went. I actually could have taken him right here and not felt too bad about it. I think probably next on my personal list, I see that the highest rated wide receiver on the board list is Rome Odunze. I ain't picking him here. By the way, I talked about how I thought I was willing to risk losing my pick in the 5th round to have him come back around to the 6th. It was Keenan Allen. He didn't make it. So that would have maybe should have taken Keenan Allen. But again, as this great Scott Pianowski says, you got to be willing to lose guys. I certainly don't like my highest ranked receiver remaining as much as I like Keenan Allen, and he's not related to me the way Keenan Allen clearly is my eldest son. But I'll take Calvin Ridley if Dave wants to unpause it. As my third starting receiver, I'm okay. I think he's a little undervalued in drafts. Again, Dave, we have any questions people would like us to answer in real time? Okay. Keeper question. Okay, you gave me way too much information there. We're just being asked Ayuk in the 5th as a keeper, Jake, or Tyjae Spears in the 13th. All the rest of it doesn't matter. If you had to choose one, Ayuk in the 5th, Spears in the 13th, you can only keep one.
I hate to say this, I would go with Tyjae Spears in the 13th. I still think there's an okay chance that Tony Pollard is not the adamant guy in that backfield. And because the coaches have come out and basically said, these are the same guy. You guys don't need to worry about it right now, so yeah, that could be Tony Pollard, but Tyjae Spears, if you get a relative, not workhorse, but lead running back in the 13th, that's fine. The only thing with Brandon Ayuk is just, I know it's decent value based on where he's being drafted, which I believe is in
but not that much.
third round of this one, so 2 rounds. What if Brandon Ayuk actually does get traded or hold out? That's the thing that I don't want to waste that 5th pick on.
Generally speaking, I would say early round picks that you're getting at discounts are more valuable than getting Tyjae Spears at a 4-round discount or a 5 or whatever it is, But in this case, I think it comes down to if you're asking the question to me, that already means that you kind of don't want to take the risk that Jake is talking about. And therefore, go ahead. You have my permission not to. It's fine. You're basically regaining the pick and therefore getting close to value for Ayuk. That's okay. Who's going to win you a league? Ayuk at the height of his powers. Probably not Tyjae Spears at the height of his. But I don't mind doing the 13th if you just don't want any part of Ayuk. I get it. Okay, you can restart us there. Thank you for the question. I'm gonna go with my best available here. Rashee Rice clearly coming at a discount. And I'm willing to, especially since I'm not so sure about Calvin Ridley, I'll take the bench spot or the flex spot, however you want to put it, with Rashee Rice.
I love that.
Now you're
going to have at least 5 games or whatever without the big impediment, Marquise Brown being there. So,
I mean, that's not the worry.
I want to circle out real quick, though. I just realized the Calvin Ridley pick. You know what? You know who is still on the board? Your best pal, DeAndre Hopkins. I just want to put that out there into the ether.
Oh, I mean, if we could go back 3 years and I could have that DeAndre Hopkins, I'm rocking with that. You kidding me? Fantastic.
Okay, fine. If you're going to use logic, I can't talk to you. So I'm sitting here. I've got my quarterback. I can't default. I don't really want to default to my other onesie position of tight end either. That's this whole chunk of those guys I'm just not interested in, and I'm going to stay away from.
Right. What's great about that strategy is like it just does, from this point forward, you have freedom to just take shots on the scarce positions. Like I do it all the time in these drafts. This time I didn't happen to do it, but I love waiting at tight end.
I will just go ahead and draft the teammate of your fellow Xavier Worthy. Why not? Yeah. Exactly. Could be either one of them. Both. No, there's a chance.
Of the 3 right now, knowing that Hollywood Brown's sternum isn't necessarily connected to his shoulder, you tell me of the 3 Chiefs receivers who has the highest upside, I think it's Xavier Worthy, even though he has the floor to do nothing because he might not be able to play football, but you're getting him in the 7th round.
Right. But what if he's the next Mecole Hardman? No, I hate that pick. I am going to go, and I was hoping, I knew I didn't have to take this guy previously, so that's why I went Xavier Worthy. But Deontay Johnson, look, it's half PPR. It's not full PPR. I would have been hitting that button so frantically, I might have broke my phone. But Deontay Johnson, half PPR, I'm very excited about. We saw Adam Thielen, old man Adam Thielen, for the first 6 games that he still had juice last year. Be great in a probably worse version of this offense. So Deontay Johnson can still separate. He's younger. I'll take him.
Agreed. Kind of a knucklehead, but again, we're not drafting starters anymore, so he's definitely close on my board. So I don't have a quarterback yet, and just like you with tight end, I don't feel any pressure because I've got perfectly fine options that are going to be available to me for a long time. So I hope it's a note for folks who wind up waiting on purpose or accidentally for quarterback or tight end. Certainly for defenses and kickers, please don't do that. But there's just no reason once you've waited to feel like now there's pressure. There just isn't. So I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to take one of the flag players that I wind up with all the time in these drafts. Loved Chase Brown's film from the cameo from last year, and I'm hoping that he's legit. Brock Purdy did just go. Was that a team that already had a quarterback? No, team one did not have a quarterback either. So a quick scan of the board tells me that now every team has a quarterback except me. So the top 11, at least in the default ranks here, are gone. Should we make the point about getting that Tajay Spears is a good value? He would be next on my list. But I think I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll go Tajay Spears. He's just best available on my list. And he didn't go in the 13th round. So there you go.
Exactly. Proving
DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, you could have stacked DeAndre Hopkins with Kyler Murray 3 years ago, but he went right before you.
So close. I was so close.
He was one pick and 3 years away.
It was a lot. I'm looking at running backs because, not that I'm desperate. I have my 2 starters locked in, but it would be nice. It sure would be nice to get a third guy. I see my standby Chuba sitting over here.
Wait, what's his name?
Chuber, as it were affectionately. That guy, Chuber Hubbard, is still on the docket. But I don't think I'm going to go with that direction, sadly. I'm going to push this thing once more on running back because it is a shorter turn. I'm going to grab another upside guy of Christian Watson and hope that the duct tape they use to put his hamstrings back on will hold for the whole season.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're a Viking fan. What do you care? There you go. There's the joke. That's hilarious.
Had to do it. But the only running back who went between that pick and my new pick was Zeke. So I feel pretty good about that decision.
You weren't hanging on a moment with Zeke?
No, I really was not at all. But I do kind of want to grab a running back here before it somewhat runs out. People are going to hate this pick, and that's fine. I love this pick of Antonio Gibson in the 10th round. It's half PPR. Again, if it was full PPR, I'd be even more excited. My view, and I would love to know your view on the Patriots running backs. Yeah. But Ramondre Stevenson, how many scoring opportunities is that Patriots offense going to have? Probably not a ton. He looks like he should be the first and second down back and get the red zone opportunities. But I kind of don't care about the red zone opportunities as much in that offense. So give me hopefully the dump off guy of Antonio Gibson. And that's what I hope that I got here.
Yeah, he'll play. He'll play. Like they cut Kevin Harris. It feels like a 2-man backfield mostly. JaMychal Hasty is there. The worry I would say is that JaMychal Hasty is kind of also that body type of the dump off guy. He's not really a banger. Sure. But again, it's the 10th round. It's your third running back in the 10th round, which I don't think I have the gumption to do, but beggars can't be choosers. Right. So hopefully this is not the typical way these drafts go. I don't know if I've ever waited this long in these drafts to go on quarterback because I love Tua in the 10th round and some doofus who already had CJ Stroud just took Tua. Like the team that took Dak Prescott 2 rounds ago, taking Jaden Daniels, I get that, but spending on CJ Stroud and then taking Tua feels very bot-like. And I know since you're half bot yourself, you could probably render judgment on that.
Yeah, that's not quite as bot-like as the Patrick Mahomes Jared Goff duo that we just saw, but it's up there.
Pretty body. So I don't feel any need. Actually, Dave, I'll take another question if you have one. Any other questions in there? It's fine. You just got to give it to me. Yeah. Ooh, 2 good options from someone in chat asking Garrett Wilson in the 9th or Devon Achane in the 11th. What do you think, Jake?
Everything that we said about Garrett Wilson up top and the question marks that I have for him, obviously,
Right.
I will put those aside to get him in the 9th. But with Achane going that late, there's very few running backs that can just still straight up win you your week almost on their own. And I do still feel that he is that guy. So I would take Achane in the 11th there.
I say probably yes. Like in a complete vacuum, I have Wilson like a little higher than Achane. I like them both as upside plays for sure. There's scary downside with both of them. Probably way more injury downside with Achane than with Garrett Wilson. I think I'm with you. I think the 2 rounds of value give me a little more the scarcer position. I mean, running back is the scarcer position, period, end of story. Everybody knows that's true. You might hate the options, but it is scarcer. So, yep. I also think by a whisker, I would probably say Achane. Thank you for the question in the chat, by the way. I'm not going to go quarterback. Add me a minute here, Dave. Add me some time. I don't know if you have that ability. Okay. I love the sound effect that says "come on." Unless that was you, Jake.
I do it very softly.
Very soft. Come on. So still not going quarterback. I mean, the guys I wanted are gone, so like whatever. I'm just gonna make do. There's plenty of fish in the sea. So the running back I might have taken over Gibson. Go ahead. I'm ready for my pick. You can start her back up again. Are you starting it back up again there, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
It is Zach Charbonnet. Another flag player. Justin Herbert goes, okay, I'm on auto pick here, buddy. Can you? All right. I mean, you kind of don't, but all right.
You don't love Jacoby Myers? Is that
I do,
what I'm hearing?
but I'm not taking him there. I like Jacoby Myers a lot, but don't need to take him in the 11th round. I think Dave is going to undo all these picks. And
bye, Chuber. I'm sorry. We hardly knew ye. You had just a moment in the spotlight there.
I mean, the unfortunate thing is that now the queue is messed up. Which, all right. So who do I go with here? Yeah, Chuber. Chuber is I don't need another running back. I'm probably not going to go quarterback yet because I probably would have gone Justin Herbert. So we're gonna do 2 quarterbacks very, very late here. Because I just don't think it's a problem. They're all the same. It's fine. They're all really good. They're all going to be 4,000 yards. It's going to be fine. So I wind up taking Jerry Jeudy a fair amount. So Jerry Jeudy, come on down. I don't like him. I made a living fading him when he was in Denver, but a guy this talented in the 11th round, like I'll just take the chance and cut him after week 3 if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, isn't that with wide receivers, especially this late, it's really hard to find somebody where you just go, I know what you're going to be after 2 weeks, and I don't care if you're gone after 2 weeks. I find that really hard this late in the draft to find that with wide receivers a lot of the time. So,
but like also it's very hard for anybody to go, boy, that's a stupid pick. Like, because you can understand how it can go right. It's probably not gonna, but it's the 11th round, so we don't care as much.
There is that chance.
Chuber.
I know he's staring me in the face here, and I feel like I would be distracting him if I didn't. You know what? I'm going to do it.
And President Obama.
And Obama would be so mad at me if I did not take Chuber Hubbard, obviously, there. I would get an angry letter. I just know I would. And with him, at least, for the first 4 weeks, like, sure, great. I can slot him into my picks if desperate.
I have news for you. It's going to be longer than 4 weeks. I mean, I don't have any inside information, but there's no reason to rush Jonathan Brooks. Khalil Herbert. Chuba Hubbard is going to be the starting running back in Carolina for half the season. I think.
You're right.
Yeah.
Just for the bits, if for no other reason. And then I'm going to do an opposites thing. So I'm going with an early season guy in Chuba Hubbard and a late season guy in Jalen Wright. I think maybe a fill-in for Devin Achane when he gets injured, if he gets injured. Maybe even leapfrog Raheem Mostert because, you know, he's been alive for a long time and he's a running back. So there's always a decent chance that he fizzles out towards the end of the season.
All right, I'm going to stay committed to the bit. We're going to still wait on quarterback. And I said his name. There's Khalil Herbert for you. So, you know, I mean, Jake, you're never taking two quarterbacks in any single quarterback draft, right?
I have, but it's only because of weird league settings where like you can only have 10 waiver pickups or stupid stuff like that. Yeah.
Right. But normally no. And
No.
here we're getting everybody taking 2 quarterbacks. I really don't think I don't have any leagues where I wait to the 13th round to get my quarterback. Like I'm a big advocate for waiting for quarterback, but this has sort of gone it's been good. It's for the bits, for the memes. Everybody can yell at me in the comments. Dave, do we have a finishing question here in the chat? No more questions. All right. Well, live people, you're mesmerized by my lack of quarterbacks, and I'll just take a quarterback. How about that? Take Matthew Stafford. Yeah. Damn right. Matthew Stafford's my lead quarterback.
Yeah, man. Who drafts quarterbacks with firm backs these days? Anyways, I hear that's overrated.
Well, I hear both of his receivers going the first to the second round and the third round. So, yeah, it's in other words, there's just a hell of a lot of quarterback stats out there. There just are.
That's true. That is true. There's no need for me to do this in this round. I could just wait and do this in the next round. But I just want to try to bump up his ADP a little bit if I can. That's really the game I'm trying to play. I like Greg Dulcich. If I'm going to wait a long time at tight end, just fine, Greg Dulcich. Because like you said, I should know what he is after a couple of weeks. And if he gets hurt, when he gets hurt, then fine, streaming. I go streaming to the waiver wire for tight end, and it's no big deal. But if he does hit as a top 2 option in that offense, great. I'm set.
I thought you were going to say also, like I was saying with quarterback, it's not realistic that every team in normal drafts do 2 tight ends the way these bots have done. So it's like you're never going to be waiting that long, and that's not a choice you're ever going to have to make. But also, may I just add that I hear from a lot of folks who come on my show this kind of echo chambery notion that, well, whatever your number is, whether you think there's 6 tight ends in the top tier or 7, there's a clear drop off, and you have to get one of those top 6 or 7. And to that, I say, phooey. I don't believe that. Would Sam Laporta have been in that group last year? Like, no, it's different this year because now there's Trey McBride and Sam Laporta. Here's what I will guarantee. I said it on Jeff Erickson's show earlier today. I guarantee a tight end being taken outside the top 10 is going to finish tight end 3 because he's going to score 10 touchdowns. And next year they're going to be like, well, clearly that guy is a top 3 tight end. And we're going to do the same merry-go-round over and over again. And maybe that guy, Jake, is Greg Dulcich.
Maybe that guy is Greg Dulcich. And maybe I'm the guy who's going to do that same thing next year. To be determined. We don't know. But what I will not leave up to speculation is my last pick, which is Kamani Vidal. It's just, I don't know. It should be a crazy run first offense with the Chargers. It really should be. Can he leapfrog injured J.K. Dobbins and older, uninspiring Gus Edwards? Yeah, maybe.
Whatever. It's a last round pick. We saw a lot of kids. We saw Ray Davis and Kamani Vidal and Braylon Allen and Tyrone Tracy and Bucky Irving all go in the last round. So it was a round for bots and the half bot, Jake, to pick rookie running backs. And I'm going to take the broken old running back who I can throw on reserve. I get Nick Chubb at the very end. Who would have thought? Poor Nick Chubb, whose ADP is falling even more now that everybody actually believes that he's broken, as opposed to 2 weeks ago when people were like, maybe he's going to start this. Like, did you watch what happened to his knee? But 14th round for Nick Chubb. All right, Jake. So looking back, this was the wait on tight end draft for you. It was the wait on quarterback draft for me. We probably, again, the bots were such that we wouldn't probably have waited in real life as much as we did here. But I think it's still instructive that if things go wacky, you can still be functional and work it out by taking the scarcer positions. When you look back on this team that you've assembled here, what do you think?
It's fine. This is how I feel about a lot of these teams that are taken in the 10th spot, because it is interesting whenever I wait a little bit longer to grab these running backs, because that is the thing. And sometimes you have to play that game and just see, can I cobble together enough of these guys that I feel in the right matchups or whatever, I can make it work, and I can make this work. But it just doesn't always feel good to look at. But honestly, I think it's a completely fine and usable team.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message of all these mocks should be, I mean, you come out of a draft and you feel like, okay, boy, I wish I'd taken player X, or I messed up on this position or whatever. And that's because we've all built a very kind of concrete sense of how a season is going to go. And then the games start playing. And it's just not how the season goes. Like the one thing that I can promise everybody watching and watching after the fact that I can definitely promise you is that of the 24 guys taken in the first 2 rounds, 20 of them will have seasons that we didn't expect. That some of them will have gotten hurt. Some of them will have stunk and we didn't see it coming. And some of them will explode. And then some of them will start the season so good and you're like, I'm a genius. And then they'll fall off the cliff. Like, it's just, that's the mind palace that shatters, So my point in bringing that up is to say that the team that you wind up with, that you think you have at the end of a draft, just winds up looking so different in a few weeks. And there are many, many avenues to fix it. So just don't freak out, and it's fine. And as long as you're within the guardrails, you'll be fine.
I think I'm in the guardrails. That's what I can say confidently about this. Yeah. But I look and I don't mean to do the comparison thing, but I look over at your team and I do get just a little bit excited about the Bijan Robinson and Josh Jacobs of it all. So kudos to you on that.
Well, thanks. I mean, and if you think about it, it's the exact, I go running back, you go wide receiver, and you can assemble a good team. Like, another overarching thing is I always say on these videos is you're drafting players, not positions. Don't go into a position with a bumper sticker that says you have to go hero RB, or you have to go wide receiver, or you have to go tight end in the third, or you don't think of it that way. Players, not positions. All right. We've done it. For those of you who watched the live stream, I hope you found it soothing and fun to watch. And everybody watching afterwards, the many more folks who are watching it once we post it, thank you so much for watching. Everybody, thank you for watching. I want to thank AG1, drinkag1.com/Harris. I really do drink it every morning. And I think if you do, you'll have a good experience. Would love it if you use our URL, drinkag1.com/Harris. Jake Trowbridge, I mean, I am burying the lead, but I've been told by your agent that you've accepted the offer to return to the podcast every single Thursday during the regular season. And I couldn't be happier. You're breaking the 3-year jinx.
I am. I'm nothing if not an innovator. And by the way, I need to talk to my agent for giving the go-ahead before he cleared it with me, by the way. But that's fine. We'll work out that later. No, I'm very excited. Of course, I'm so excited to come back for 4th year.
Well, I am very happy to have you. So we're going to have you on the podcast next week. I want to thank Dave Piper for producing. Great job, as always, Dave. Thank you to all of you once again for watching. And we're going to be back on the channel Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. We're doing another mock draft because people like the mock drafts. It'll be me and Jim McCormick picking live.